Well, hello there, and welcome to Momentous Live, episode 140. I'm Tristan Jutra.
And I'm Will Silver. Another episode of Four White Guys with Glasses, except one of them's not wearing glasses.
I've got my contacts in. I'm Greg Williams.
And I'm Jamie Reynolds.
Or is that Jamie Snowman Reynolds?
Jamie Santa Reynolds.
It's a Santa. Sorry,
it's a Santa.
It's a Santa. Yeah. There we go.
I had it as an alien previously, but I don't have any alien topics. I don't think today. So,
is Santa actually human? Is he an alien?
Well, Santa may be.
What does Eric Von Daniken have to say about that?
I don't even know who that is.
No, me either.
I want to know.
Alien astronaut theory, 1970s, inspired Zechariah Sitchin.
Oh, yeah. All that pop culture stuff that's at the top of everybody's mind. You could have at least gone with Bob Lazar.
Bob Lazar.
Plays.
Yeah.
Sure. Okay.
So
we have a show here. It's called Momentous.tv, and you can check us out at the www.thereof to find out all about this nonsense. Podcast, social links, etc. Missing this week, once again, is Tasia Custodi. So we will talk about her in her absence, and her ears will be on fire, and that's fine. Hopefully she'll be back in the near. She's got a lot going on right now. All right.
She's got a lower body injury.
Thanks, Will.
We're just like, I think it's between the ears injury. Let's move on, shall we?
In her stead is me.
Yes.
Yeah.
Jamie Reynolds. Yes. So I'll do my best. I'll do my best.
Because what we needed was another middle-aged white guy with glasses.
Yeah.
Will nailed it
last week.
Okay. So welcome to our holiday spectacular, where we're going to talk about our momentous picks for the year. We do weekly momentous picks, but what is it that stood out for the entire year to us in the categories of technology, movies, TV shows, and of course, our mysterious wildcard round? So let's start with a little tech, since that's kind of what we're mostly here for. I mean, we do all the things, but let's start with tech, and we're going to start with William. What is your momentous tech peek? I know there's a story behind it too, so we're starting early. You get your story in.
So this is a new thing in my life. It is the Apple Ultra 2. Apple Watch, yeah. Apple Watch Ultra 2. And I just recently got it about a week and a half ago, maybe 2 weeks ago.
Santa came early.
Yeah, Santa came early. And basically, I have been on a Fitbit. And Fitbit is kind of giving up the ghost. They got bought out by Google. Basically, the updates were few and far between in the last year or so. And then they're fully moving over to Google's fitness app. And basically, it's a technology that they're kind of not giving full justice to. And I was thinking about moving over, and turns out that my wife was investigating getting me an Apple Watch, and may have been talking to someone on this show. But the funny thing is that I got the opportunity to get an Apple Watch for free. And so I took that opportunity, and basically, so then my wife was like, I was going to get you one. So I got one early.
She got watch blocked.
She got watch blocked. I got one early. So I got it a couple of weeks ago. I'm still getting used to it. I like it a lot. Probably my biggest frustration, it's good that you have this up because I have an interface much like this, is that, it tells you the time, the temperature outside, your miles above sea level, and your position within space-time, but it doesn't tell you how many steps you have or how many calories you burn, which are the two things that I really liked on my Fitbit. So I've been able to get the steps through another app that I actually installed, and then I put on the watch face, but I still haven't figured out how to get calories to display. So I have to figure that out. But yeah, I'm really loving it. There's a few other things that I think are a little funny. For example, in the top right on the face, you'll see 3 rings there, and that's for your active minutes, your exercise minutes, and the blue one is for standing. why do I need to stand once an hour? Like, this is the thing I don't understand. It's like, why is this a thing? Is this a problem that people aren't standing?
Actually, yes.
Because I don't have a problem with standing. I usually do my standing. Like, I always get my standing. So it's like, I don't know, man. It's funny that that's the thing, but yet it doesn't have a calorie meter. So
it does. That outer ring is your actively burned calories.
But I want total calories.
Okay.
Yeah. So, and I also like the number to read out like it does on a Fitbit.
Oh, that's fair.
Anyways,
that will also take you through to your steps manually on. Yeah, if you tap in and then scroll up, it'll take you to your steps for the day, which is not right on the home screen, but again, you've packed in a lot of information on that particular modular display.
Yes.
So mine's just a picture of my cat with the time.
Yeah. Well, I mean, knowing your position in space-time is quite important.
If you were teleporting, it would be, right?
Yes.
Because you got to account for where you're. Right?
Yes.
Like, bam.
Yeah, the one I think they've on the one showing on the website, they're also showing the UV index.
It's
looking
which
like
I took off right away. That's
Yeah.
like the default. Like, why do I need the UV index?
Yeah, but it all depends. Yeah.
Why? Not here. Not now.
Does the sun still exist? That's the thing with all those things are known as complications, and you're able to enable, disable, replace, swap them around. I prefer a pretty minimalist face myself, just with basic hands, and then complications in the corners. I have like the temperature, I've got the battery level, walkie-talkie, and the mini version of the rings, which I barely look at.
So, Will, can I ask your what's the button on the side called? The button on the iPhone 15.
The action button.
What did you set your action button to?
I've set it to exercise. So if I'm on a walk, I can just press it, and it'll usually click in within a few minutes, anyways, and say, "Hey, looks like you're breathing hard, fatso. Are you on a walk?" And I go, so the action button will do that, but it also tells me as well. But the action button will also let me pick whether I'm on an exercise bike or whether I'm doing free weights or whatever the exercise is. It even gets down to like rowing outside or rowing inside. Like there's a lot of settings.
I've taken my rowing machine outside. How does it know? The one thing that you might find interesting is that action button is actually set per focus mode. So you can have it set so that it does a different thing per focus. I've typically got mine set to flashlight, which is outside of being able to find where my phone is, which is my number one feature of the Apple Watch, right? Flick up, hit the button. It's in my back pocket. Great. Got it. That's the one. The other is this flashlight. If you tap that button, right? And if you hold it up, it's gonna be white. Swipe it to the middle, it'll flash white, and then swipe it one more time, it'll be red. It's a low intensity. The second you turn it away from yourself, like here at Superhero Power Stance, my Casio, by the way, today, it will actually turn it on to a higher intensity. It is honestly, it is a killer app for me because, at night, I'm wearing my watch while I sleep. So I get the sleep tracking. If you want a snack, boom, red light. Don't ruin your night vision, and you don't run into anything. It's great.
Is that with a different flashlight app or the built-in flashlight?
That's the built-in flashlight.
That's built-in, yeah. I just love that you went like from 0 to ultra, boom. So you got the big boy, and it's the 2, and they might not be for sale in the US as of a few days from now because of some patent disputes. So you just got in there.
I have to quote my wife. She said, because I had the option, and she said, Tristan said that he would get the Ultra 2. So I actually, through third-party hands, was told that you said stop being a wuss and get the Ultra 2.
Yes, I'm sure that's exactly what I told you. Nicely done. Jamie, you're in the gadget train too for tech this year. Different ecosystems, but similar in the Google acquired ecosystem, like Google acquired Fitbit. You're in the
Nest ecosystem, I suppose. Yeah, I experimented last year with a Google doorbell to start, and I I have an older house, and it did not come with a doorbell, so everybody's had to knock like a caveman when they come to my door. So I thought, well, before I wire one in, I'm going to try the Google doorbell, and they have a battery powered version and they have a wired version. And so I put the battery version in, and my wife, of course, rolled her eyes and, oh, Jamie with this technology again. I had already done the Nest thermostat. I think you have one of those still, Tristan. And she liked that when I put that in, even though she rolled her eyes when I first put that one in too. She realized that once she could turn the temperature up from her bed, that it was actually not such a bad thing. The doorbell went on, and because she works from home, I thought it would be a nice feature for her to be able to see who's coming to the door, and to see when the cat walks in front. It does things like recognizes people with packages, and it will report on that to your phone, and animals and motion, all those kinds of things. And then so I did that, and then eventually I got tired of recharging the doorbell because it was battery powered. You have to recharge it. So I then bought a wired version, and then I, of course, took the time to get a transformer and take some power and step it down to 24 volts and run it out to the door with a big long drill bit and the whole thing there. Anyways, I've got a wired version of it now, and works like a hot damn. So we quite like it. You can look at it anywhere that you like, that on any Wi-Fi network, and it stores, depending on you have to still set up a plan for storing your video. I think it stores for 30 days, something like that. But that's been great. And then I've just recently, on some sort of sale, bought a couple of the Nest security cameras for my work, just to keep an eye on things going on outside. And so I've done what have I done here? I've done the Nest Cam outdoor or indoor battery one. I've wired them, so they're wired up, but you can actually have them outside wired or outside on battery and charge them. And it's actually been kind of nice. You set zones of notification, so if something pops up in a certain zone, it'll inform you, or it'll just record the information and not inform you if it's in a place you don't care about. So I've found those quite unintrusive, but very powerful at the same time. One thing I don't like about the cameras is that they don't actually have a timestamp on them. You can export the videos, you can download the videos on your phone, but at this point, there's no timestamp on them. So they just save them. Whenever you save them, that becomes the date on them, but a minor issue, unless I'm participating in a police investigation. Not saying that I am, just if I was, it might become more of an issue.
So with the doorbell and the cameras, with is it storing the video content to the cloud, like to your Google,
the cloud,
your Google account?
Yeah.
And then does it only record when there's movement? Like, how does that? Because I noticed it said 3 hours of storage. Like, how does that work?
You can set it up. So I've got it set up. So there's my front door right there, and that's on my favorites right there. And then if I go to my activity, you can see that there's well, you probably can't see that very well. There's a vehicle, it says vehicle down the side here, and eventually there's an unfamiliar face. So then there's somebody coming up the door to visit my son there. So it'll recognize faces if you want to as well.
Does it sound a klaxon when it
recognizes
intruder alert?
Yeah. You can do all sorts of things with it. I still haven't delved into the full power of it. But,
summons Ed 209.
Yeah. Oh, nice.
I'd buy that for $1.
Nice reference. I like that one.
Very cool. Well, I look forward to having my privacy invaded at your office now as well.
Yes.
Can I tell you something funny about Nest? They have a system where you can become a Nest professional installer. And so you learn all about their stuff, and then they will send people to you as an installer. I was the person who did that for Pure Image back in 2016.
Yeah.
And they won't take my number off there.
Nah.
So earlier this year, I got a call from a woman who couldn't get her thermostat installed. I'm like, I was kind of just like, I just wasn't really kind of getting. I'm like, fine, I'll come over and fix it. I went over and fixed the thermostat, and that was the end of it.
Did you have to do things like install some transformers and run new wiring or things like that when you were doing the installations? I
didn't. I just had to fix the hack job of the wiring that she'd done already.
Okay. Gotcha.
All right. Well, Gray, take it away. Your momentous tech pick of the year.
So this is xTool. Specifically, what I've got here is the screen printer, which has not arrived yet, but it is another piece of the xTool ecosystem that I'm very, very excited for. This was a Kickstarter. So the Kickstarter was actually for $149, which was like, it's $3.99 regular price, $249 on sale for Christmas, and it also coming with a whole bunch of stuff. It's going to be here. I think UPS tried to deliver it today.
Why don't you tell us a little bit about the xTool stuff that you've been enjoying throughout the year with the hands-on experience?
I shall indeed. So over to my left over here is the xTool M1, which is a 10-watt diode laser cutter. And so that 10-watt diode laser cutter will cut through wood. It'll cut through some colors of acrylic. It can also do what I'm referring to as tattooing cloth. So you can basically engrave onto cloth with patterns, which are shown here on the show. It is a beautiful little machine. It also has a blade in it. So this is essentially a Cricut as well as a laser cutter in one little device. In addition to that, I picked up the riser base, which basically makes it twice as tall. So you can do, sorry, 1 second here, pizza's coming. And there it is. So you can put larger items in there. Basically, you can only have sort of a 35 millimeter distance between the laser and the surface that it's looking to engrave. So if you've got something that's taller than that, you got to be able to drop it down below the surface. So the riser base is great. It also came with the Raw 2, which is the rotary tool, which they sent me a second one of those as well. So basically, you can stick cups and anything that's that you want to be able to rotate as you engrave. The neat thing about this, like my dad's been using machines like this for the longest time. I can engrave on a sphere with this. You can engrave on an egg because of how they built this rotary tool.
Finally, engraving eggs.
You know what? Honestly, like it's a Ukrainian Christmas for everybody with eggs. It's gonna be great. So about that, and then I also have the smoke purifier, which basically means instead of having to run a hose outside, you can turn this thing on. And it will vent the smoke in through a HEPA filter, removes the smoke. Those filters have to be washed, which is not bad. Yesterday we were doing some engraving in here, and last night it was like, it smells like August in Vancouver. Huh? Should probably wash that filter. I've actually also I've augmented that now with the IKEA air purifier in the room. I've just got new filters for that today. And then they also have the air assist, which is basically it's blowing air onto the surface of anything that you're laser engraving, which actually keeps it from flaring up, keeps it a little bit cooler and gives you really nice, precise lines. So this thing is absolutely fantastic. I've been having a ton of fun with it and have started a small engraving business with it. So the glow-in-the-dark portraits that I've showed on some previous episodes, those are done with the laser engraver. The shirt that I showed, or the jacket that I showed that had the cloth tattoo, just finding sort of cool and new ways to use this. And so with what we've got here, I'm looking to sort of expand the library. The screen printing is kind of neat because this is the first time you can actually use a laser engraver with photo emulsion screen printing, which typically has been a very labor-intensive process in the past. Now you can literally just throw this thing with the emulsion on there, engrave it, and use it for screen printing right away. And it's it's a game changer, according to those who used it. They're just like, the software when I first got this thing was okay. It felt like this is a Chinese industrial machine with software that has been developed to kind of get it out the door. And that's exactly what it was, because they have gone through and they have been updating this thing nonstop, including adding generative AI into the software itself, where you can describe something and it will give you, an engravable image. Not something that I want to use all the time, but
great. There's so much in there in such a small package that I think Elizabeth Holmes is jealous.
One drop of blood.
One drop of blood.
So it's, I'm so impressed with this brand because I've purchased a number of I've purchased some 3D printers from some Chinese corporations that, after about 3 months, where do they go? Who knows? Thankfully it runs G code so I can do something with it. But these guys have been tenacious. It's funny, every Wednesday night they have a live broadcast on YouTube where they're talking about what's coming next. and it's just they're fast and furious, just delivering some really, really great features. I love this machine. I love this brand. It's doing some really great things. Like it's just, I found some fun and found some art in my craft and some craft in my art. It's great.
But inquiring minds want to know, can it cut pizza?
Yes. It can cut pumpkin.
All right. Halloween will never be the same. Speaking of generative AI, my pick this year is not a gadget per se, but it was actually, I think it was similar to my pick last year, which was straight up just ChatGPT, which at the time had only been out for a month. My pick this year, just thinking about the impact on my both personal and especially professional life, ChatGPT Plus, which as we've discussed goes for about $20 US per month. And I've found it especially useful for things to do with language, not facts so much, although, if you do anything to do with facts, it's always good to double check, do some fact checking as we've discussed. But as they've continued to add capabilities over the months, it's been around just about 12 and a half months now in the public. So brainstorming, ideation, summarizing great vast sums of data. You're now able to upload documents, PDFs, Excel spreadsheets, Word documents, throw a bunch of stuff at it, get it to summarize for you, look for patterns. You can upload images now and have it describe images to you, have it look for patterns in images. There's the voice interface now, which I believe is available in the non-plus version. So you can actually have a conversation with ChatGPT in one of a number of voices. And I actually find that for some things, that's a fair bit more useful. The voices are eerily realistic and even sometimes add in pauses and ums and little stumbles and whatnot too. It's a little uncanny, but as time goes on, they just keep adding more and more features, and they haven't raised the price yet. Of course, they might have to someday, and there's or they may add tiers to it. They've added the DALL-E functionality, so you can do image generation now without having to go out to another tool. So they've been building more and more value to this tool as time has gone on, and it's helpful for work stuff or stuff to do. Helping like summarize. Stories for podcast summaries and things like that, or you just refine this. Sometimes even like you're writing an email and it's like, it's not getting the tone right, and you ask for suggestions. It'll do grammar and spell check and stuff like that too. Still not 100% great at math if you're ever looking for help with that, but apparently future models are working on that. And then of course people get a little concerned because some people don't want them to be too powerful, and that's a whole other discussion. But my tech pick, momentous pick of the year is ChatGPT Plus. All right, so let us move on to our momentous movie picks, starting with Will. I believe this was one of your weekly picks, and there's gonna be some overlap, but you know what? Surprisingly, not everyone listens to or watches every single episode. So
a lot of mine are actually weekly picks.
That's quite all right.
And I kind of feel like they were my favorite things anyway. So it's just kind of like a summation of all of that.
I think we're going to have a lot of that, but we have however many, 50 episodes a year. So, people don't listen to or watch everything. So this could be brand new to folks. And, there's and maybe upon reflection or rewatching or re-listening to some of these things, reconsuming, we've got additional insights. So what's your pick?
In between. Yeah. Mm-hmm. I mean, I think looking at everything this year, when we were sort of brought up this topic of thinking of our favorite things, I think we all went through, there's a few things that I thought about, and certainly a few of the picks that other people are going to say were on my short list, but I kept on coming back to this, and it's not an Oscar-worthy movie, but it was so much fun.
For our listeners?
I know, I'm getting to it.
Okay.
So much fun, the Super Mario Brothers movie. And it's just one of those things that made me happy. And it's not going to win an Oscar, but as someone who is a fan of the franchise, it really, I felt, did a lot of fan service, but also in a good way, but also I think really embodied a lot of the essence of the Mario Brothers. And I know there were some complaints. Some people said it was the death of cinema. There, I think we brought up that one reviewer that was just absolutely just over the top, being being
Old man
too
yells
much.
at cloud.
Yeah, man yells at cloud. So if you are looking for high cinema, this is not it. If you're looking for a good time and it is Super Mario that is something that you like, then I highly recommend this movie.
I think as we discussed on previous episodes, whereas so much early Hollywood was adaptation of literature, and then we've since over the last couple of decades gone through graphic novels, comic books, and all the superheroes and whatnot. And as maybe some people get a little fatigued of that, it's like, well, what other intellectual property can we mine? Because there's so much storytelling in video games, right? Maybe not so much in Pong or Space Invaders, but as the decades went along, the games got more and more complex, more and more story elements to them. So it seems like quite a natural fit that some of these things can be adapted. And you're saying it's better than the original Mario Brothers movie from the 90s?
Well, quite a bit. And I think I said this at the time. I was very upset as a young kid going to see that movie about how crazy it was and what did not embody the movie. And in fact, I think the reviewers that drove me the most crazy were suggesting that the first Mario Brothers movie was better because at least it tried to do something. And it's like, yeah, so they almost gave up on video game movies because that one was so bad. It took them 30 years to do another Mario Brothers movie because that one was so atrocious.
All right. I still have yet to see it, but I'd like to.
Did it do well in the theaters?
Oh yeah. Yeah,
it
did quite well. Yeah.
Nice.
It's super charming. It's
nice.
Standard hero's journey, but super charming.
Nice.
In terms of its tone, would you liken it to the Chip and Dale movie, or some of those other kind of like nudge nudge wink wink kind of cheeky modern? No,
I'd say it's Chip and Dale was like, it was almost breaking the fourth wall. Like it was a whole different thing. And I think Chip and Dale's Rescue Rangers was my pick last year. So I'm not exactly high art guy apparently, but yeah,
it was good.
I did an English literature degree. I did some film studies. I did some art history in university, and I'm too old. Like I just watch things that I like and enjoy them for what they are. And I don't try to overanalyze them because I do that for a living. I have to dissect things, that I'm doing in terms of graphics and things like that. So when I go and watch something, I just want to put my brain over there and just enjoy something and be part of the experience. And that's both those movies I mentioned, Super Mario Brothers and Chip and Dale's Rescue Rangers. You don't have to think too hard about them, but yet they're, as Grace said, charming. They're witty. And I wouldn't say it's so much like Chip and Dale's Rescue Rangers. That one's a little bit more like edgy or something like that.
More adult.
A little bit more adult. This is like to answer Jamie's question, there was armies of kids going to this movie.
Nice.
A friend of mine, his son Addie went 4 times, and it was mostly as part of birthday parties.
Nice.
Like people were bringing kids in like squads to this thing. So I mean, I off the top of my head, I don't know what the box office was, but everyone I know was going. The time I went, it was packed with kids. So yeah, I mean,
That's great.
I think it did well. So
well, and this is something I think that Hollywood has lost in so many ways, is just appealing to people that want to watch a movie and be entertained. And it sounds like it didn't appeal to me. I'm sure I'll watch it at some point. But but again, I don't need every movie to appeal to me, but it appeals to a large crowd of people that want to go just have some fun. And they hit on a good formula, and that's great.
And I think that's the other thing is the reviewers that I saw that were slamming it, like, why are you reviewing basically a kid's movie if you're like a high art person? Like, don't go to the Super Mario Brothers movie. Like, could like somebody else review it for your publication? Like, You're clearly the high art guy. Why are you going to this movie?
Real-time
Final points of
follow-up.
Kurosawa. And next up, the Mario Brothers movie.
Real-time follow-up. $1.36 million USD.
$1.36 million.
Sorry, billion with a B.
Okay, that makes a little more sense. Okay, so it's
I don't see numbers. Yes,
No,
1.36 billion with a B.
So
and
that's
how
good.
much did it cost?
No idea, but probably not nearly as much as an Avengers movie.
Yeah.
So there we go. It's just behind Barbie. I think Barbie's at about 1.4. So yeah, that's I mean, and the thing is, movies like this, worldwide appeal, easily adaptable for translation and stuff like that too, because it's animated. Very cool. Gray, what's your momentous movie pick this year?
Everything Everywhere All at Once. Now, I realized this was a film that came out in 2022. I saw it in January of this year. The multiverse, we can't end a story because we really just want to have the optimism that everything will turn out the way that we want it to, sort of melange that's going on in all of our fiction right now. Like the knock on from this to obviously multiverse sagas in the MCU to what's culminating in Loki with what's his name again?
Ki Hui Kwan. I don't know how you pronounce it exactly, but the return of him.
And honestly, like, just what a tour de force of performances, hilarity, absolutely off the wall action. Just, it was great. This movie, and I love a good pun, is all I will say. This movie had everything that I could have wanted, and I cried. I realized I cried a lot of movies, but still, it was delightful. Seeing this family find themselves again was, powerful. Yeah, just.
And you won't look at everything bagels the same way again.
Oh yeah. Or
Nor hot
sausages.
dogs.
Yeah, hot dogs. Yeah.
Tuck fingers. Well, yeah, I think that's it's quite okay to talk about the exactly a ratatouille, raccoonatouille. Yeah, it's a good pick, and it's quite all right to mention that a year later because it definitely marked a shift in a lot of people's thinking about Hollywood movies, what could be possible. We've got some representation happening there. A lot of mostly Asian American characters. We've got Michelle Yeoh, who is a longtime favorite of folks who are in genre movies, whether it's from martial arts movies, to Asian drama, to Star Trek Discovery, etc. And of course the return of Short Round, and who we've seen since in season 2 of Loki. So, and he was so great, Ki Hui Kwan in was he at the Oscars?
Yeah,
and he was just like so excited to be there, and the sort of standout performance from Jamie Lee Curtis as well, right. Kind of playing against type, which was so. Yeah, it's a good pick. I mean, and by seeing it in January, you let us talk about it for another year,
right?
Perfect. Jamie, your momentous movie pick of 2023.
BlackBerry. You guys have maybe talked about this. I maybe talked about this before. I don't think I did, but so I actually saw this. And there's another movie that I saw on the way I went to Ireland this year, and I saw it on the plane on the way over. I'm like, oh, this is here. I'll give it a watch. I've been told it's good. And BlackBerry, boy, it was a riveting tale of that Canadian company that could. So I think part of me, of course, being a bit of a patriot myself, I was excited to watch some of the history unfold. I quite like Jay Baruchel, who plays Mike
Lizardis.
Yes, Mike Lizardis. So he was quite good, but I'm very impressed with Glenn Howerton, who plays Jim Balsillie, who
the hair
just over the top, but in a weirdly likable way. It was fascinating to watch. It was a movie about the BlackBerry devices, as a lot of people had. I never had one. I was a Palm guy and then moved on to the Android phones, but it was very interesting to watch the passion of the people. A movie about a character study, really. It was all about these individual people and how they interacted, and the actors that they had. Michael Ironside being one of them.
Exactly.
Again, just I didn't realize he was Canadian. I think until you told me, Tristan, that he's actually.
I didn't know that.
Yeah. So
he comes on screen. I'm like, yes.
Yeah,
it just gets better and better.
Yeah. So, but it was, and the funny thing is, watching this movie, it sort of felt like I was watching a Canadian production. Like you can just tell when something is Canadian. It wasn't that it was bad; it was actually quite good. But there was something raw,
understated.
about it. Yeah. It was understated, yes, and it was really kind of fascinating watching this movie play out. And there was because it was that raw and clean and simple, it made it feel that much more real. You could feel yourself really being drawn into the story. So it was something that I could. I'm going to watch it again. I haven't watched it again, but it was really an enjoyable Canadian production. And I'm assuming it was a Canadian production.
It was. I think it was a co-pro, but yeah, CBC was actually involved in it as well. I believe.
Okay. Yeah. But, and I would recommend it as a great bit of a Canadian biopic history there, and an enjoyable watch.
So I went to school about 500 yards away from Research and Motion headquarters at the University of Waterloo, and so seeing some of the stuff, you can see some of the, like, it appears they probably shot this on location in Waterloo. If not, they found a place that looks a lot like it. But
right.
Did I see Carrie Elwes in here?
Yes.
Oh,
yeah,
I need to
watch
this.
Yeah.
It's great.
He doesn't have much in there, but what he does, again, everybody stands out as a character really, really well. Big parts, small parts, whatever it is. And the way they all mesh together is it's just very impressive. It's a good movie to watch. So something where you can, again, you want everybody to succeed. And if you know the history of BlackBerry, that's a bit dubious, of course. But yes, it's anyways, that would be my pick of the year. My second, I didn't put it on the list there, but my second one was The Menu, which was a unique one. Not for everybody, but I liked it was a little simplistic and a little on the nose, but it was it was
something capitalism.
Yeah, something capitalism. Exactly. It was a better take on capitalism than the Triangle of Sadness. I think Triangle of Sadness was a bit too much one way.
Not enough diarrhea.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Anyway, so that was my runner up was The Menu. But yeah, the BlackBerry definitely a one to watch if you get a chance to watch it. Give it a watch.
Runners ups and honorable mentions are allowed, because you know what, we can do whatever we want here.
Thank you, Tristan.
Yeah.
You're
most welcome.
You're a kind overlord.
The Menu is a good choice, and BlackBerry is definitely like.
Yeah,
possibly it was close to my number one. If I hadn't picked what I did pick, it was going to be my number one, because what I do is I keep track in my notes app on my phone of movies I see, and I give them a little rating when I see them, and I keep track of if I saw them in the theater and what. It's a thing. So, but it's great because it makes episodes like this easier, because I've been doing this for years. I just scroll back the years like, oh yeah, I saw that's all right. And I got my little ratings. Boom. I had actually rated this one of the very few movies I'd rated 5 out of 5.
Wow.
Because I came out of there going, damn. Yeah. So I mean, these are all strong picks so far. I have some homework to do because I got to go see Super Mario Brothers movie. Will, I've been schooled. Now, I think one of the interesting things about the BlackBerry is that it's representative of a recent phenomenon in the last couple of years, where we've been blessed with all these interesting sort of tales of corporate intrigue and successes and failures. So everything from the Theranos movies to We Crash, which is about WeWork. And Theranos, I think, had both a documentary and a dramatization. This past year alone, not only did we have BlackBerry, we had the Tetris movie, which was a lot of fun. And, about the acquisition of the Game Boy rights to Tetris, and they made it into basically a spy thriller. And then we also had Air, starring Ben Affleck and Matt Damon, Jason Bateman, and others. That was pretty strong as well. And
we watched that one too. That was good. Yeah.
Yeah. So it's. I mean, these are kind of. I mean, it's weird. They're kind of like business movies, but they're well done. And they sometimes truth is stranger than fiction, right? And especially when we've been growing up with, like, a lot of these are catered to for middle-aged white guys with glasses in a lot of ways, because
Sure.
we saw the ups and downs of BlackBerry, right? We saw Nike become a phenomenon. We saw, Theranos, unfold. We saw all of these things happening. Most of us played Tetris at one point or another growing up in the 80s and 90s. So, we're truly in the golden age of being catered to or pandered. I'll take either.
I'm good. I'm good with both.
Exactly. For some reason, I don't have mine up here, but I will do it right now. My pick that I end up going with might be a little obvious, but I enjoyed it more. I mean, I was expecting it. It was actually my anticipated pick. When we did last year's show, we always do our year-end wrap-up and then what we're most looking forward to. This was the movie I was most looking forward to, and by coincidence, it just happened. I checked back afterwards after I chose it. It's like, oh, Oppenheimer. Big fan of Christopher Nolan. Saw it in IMAX for a movie that was a lot of talking. It didn't seem like it was 3 hours long to me. And there wasn't as much of the typical Christopher Nolan, let's play with time and confuse people all to heck. There was some jumps in time, but it was just different points in the timeline. It wasn't doing any twisty turny stuff like Interstellar or Memento or Tenet or any nonsense like that. But if you're interested in the history of the Cold War or the weapons of mass destruction, Christopher Nolan as a director, Cillian Murphy as an actor, and a strong ensemble cast behind him, I really enjoyed Oppenheimer. And it was based on the story, the book American Prometheus, for anyone scoring at home. So you can, if you liked Oppenheimer, go read the book or audiobook if you want to cheat. And anyone else see Oppenheimer? Oh, yeah, I know, Jamie.
I
did. Great,
you
you did.
saw it with you.
Kind of nailed it.
Will, did you end up seeing it?
I saw it with you. I saw it twice.
Oh,
I
saw it twice. Right, that's why I got confused.
Right.
What was the other? Because you had seen it before, right?
Yeah, I didn't tell you guys because we were all going together. But somebody gave me a free ticket, and so I went, and then I went again because
to see it in IMAX. Yeah. It was a great show. It was grand. It was Christopher Nolan knows how to make a movie. There's no question about it. I felt it was a little long and a little convoluted at some points. It felt like it was trying to be grander than it needed to be. I thought there was. I think Cillian Murphy was the highlight. Really a fantastic role. I hope he wins Best Actor at the Oscars. There's not many other movies, I don't think, to really compare him to anyways.
Ryan Gosling. That's Ken.
Yeah. Well, and he is Kenough. So
yeah, exactly. Beach.
Yeah.
And if I had to, as mentioned, I really did enjoy BlackBerry, but I did really enjoy Godzilla -1 as well, which is more recency bias. But anyhow, let's move on to TV shows, shall we? Will, what is your momentous TV series or TV show pick for 2023?
Yeah, it's funny because I know this will be shocking. So I'm going to mention my pick, but a very close honorable mention was the final season of Ted Lasso. Which I enjoyed very much. But my pick had to be Welcome to Wrexham Season 2. It was really one of the best seasons of television I think I've seen in a long time.
Really?
I just
better than season 1.
Better than season 1 by far. I really, really enjoyed it. Obviously, I love the soccers or footballs, but just great characters, great actors, real life.
But they're not even, it's real life. They're not even acting.
Real life. But I mean, like the actors are great. Yeah. The people who are actors are great, but also characters in terms of just these characters in the town.
Exactly.
And just, I mean, I knew what was going to happen because I follow the footballs, but what happens at the end, you can't write. Like, this is the thing about sports. And the thing that they kind of are saying in Welcome to Wrexham is that football can be bigger than fiction. Like it can be so great because you can't control it. It just happens. And if you guys haven't seen it, I won't ruin anything, but there's a couple moments near the end where I'm just like, this is what football is. This is why you get addicted as a football fan or a soccer fan to the game, and why they call it the beautiful game, because you can't make this stuff up. You can't write it. It happens. And so there's something just beautiful about that. And it's just really, really good. Has anyone seen it? I'm just throwing it out there.
Not season 2. Just we really enjoyed season 1, but we got a bit of a jam up in our viewing at the moment in our queue, so we haven't gotten to season 2 yet.
Highly recommended. I think it's far better than the first season, especially the last couple episodes. And if you don't know what happens in the real world, you'll enjoy it even more.
Luckily, I don't follow soccer really at all, so no spoilers. Okay, well, if someone puts a gun to your head and says, "Welcome to Wrexham" or Ted Lasso, all or nothing, which do you pick?
Me?
Yeah.
I think Welcome to Wrexham is a
okay.
better show, but it's tough.
There you go. Real life, stranger than fiction. Great pick. I'll have to now. Maybe that's what we'll do over the holidays. Catch up on TV because
who needs family?
Exactly.
Yeah.
Who needs loved ones?
Mm-hmm.
Gray, your momentous pick for our TV series this year.
Star Trek Strange New World season 2.
Nice.
This continues on from the fantastic first season of Christopher Pike and the gang as they take the Enterprise NCC 1701 Nobility A, B, C, or D. And it's a wonderful reimagining of the first 5-year mission of the USS Enterprise under Christopher Pike. Some fascinating things in this one. Pike is a character who we know his fate. He is destined to be critically burned with delta radiation, confined to a beep chair, which, I get that it was the 60s, but I really feel like the Federation would have better technology than that at that point, but that's neither here nor there. Inside this 10-episode season, there are some pretty incredible things. We see a ton of development of all of the characters. Dr. Mbenga and Nurse Chapel kick some ass in a way that has not been seen in Star Trek to date. And it is absolutely phenomenal. We see a confrontation with the Romulans. We see a musical episode. We see a crossover episode with Lower Decks, an animated Star Trek comedy, and the flagship of the Federation series crossover, and it works. F off. Just get out of here. It's too good. It's too good. It's too good. Now, Jamie was saying before the show that the musical episode had him until the Klingons and the Kling Pop. I have space in my life for that opinion. I respect that. I think it's wrong. But I respect
It's okay for
just another opinion, and this is just my opinion without other things. I thought the Klingons made it. Like when the Klingon thing happened, that was like, yes.
And honestly, musical episodes can be hit or miss.
Yeah.
It's become a bit of a trope in a lot of series, for sure.
Yeah, like going back to Once More with Feeling with Buffy and company, and just they slayed. They absolutely slayed. I've got to say, the last episode, it leaves us on a bit of a cliffhanger. I have not been this concerned for a Starfleet captain since Best of Both Worlds Part 1. Season 2, episode 26, and Season 3, Episode 1.
I'm going to up you one and say I haven't been so concerned as when Appa went missing in Avatar: The Last Airbender.
Yep. I will. Yes. Yeah. It's a dark time.
And just one of your early points, Gray. I think it does a remarkably good job for a series where you kind of you already know the fate of the main protagonist, and it's just a question of is by some mulligan or MacGuffin, will there be a way for him to avoid his fate?
Well,
Probably not.
Technically, he does avoid his fate.
On Talos 4.
Correct.
Right.
I mean,
So-
no spoilers, but so
I'm gonna one up that though. It's not just his fate that we know. We also know what happens to Spock.
Yeah.
So there is quite a bit that we know,
Mhm.
and it's still entertaining.
Well, yeah,
That's-
even Uhura and Kirk. Yeah.
Can I say like just a massive round of applause to the fellow who plays Jim Kirk.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, he did a good job.
The time travel, just fantastic. I will say this: every time I hear somebody say, you know, will he avoid his fate? I just picture Sarah Connor showing up and being like, "There's no fate but what we make." Bum, 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 bum.
Now, I will just to be a Debbie Downer because that's how I like to roll. I wonder, has it caught on with? You know, I can see how it appeals to our age demographic. Again, we grew up with the reruns of the Star Trek and Star Trek Next Generation, all these kinds of things. I struggle with Strange New Worlds a little bit. I've enjoyed it. I've watched it. It's got some entertaining values. I was expecting more Captain Pike. The reason that the show exists is because of the splash he made when he was on Discovery. And then they're like, oh, wow, everybody's really responded well to this Captain Pike guy. Let's make a show about him. And in the end, he's kind of been pushed off to the side. Of course, you have to develop all the other characters, but it's not like you get 22 episodes a year now to create this kind of thing. So it's a little bit complicated. But I'm just curious if there's been much of an impact on, you know, the Gen Z group. Do they watch it? I don't know. I'm curious about that.
So the thing that I found interesting is that I think the ensemble focus of Strange New Worlds was in response to the central focus of Discovery on Michael Burnham,
which was wonderful. I agree. Yes.
Yeah. And so, you know, the idea that everybody gets an episode.
I agree.
And so it seems to be like when I take a look at the conversation that's happening across all of the Star Trek mediums and across, you know, Trek X, Trek Twitter, I don't know, and YouTube comments on Reddit, you know, Discovery is divisive. People like it, people hate it. Yeah. Very few people are like,
most people hate it. Most people hate it, from what I can tell.
It has not had the same, you know, season 4 was fascinating because it's like, wow, you guys took a whole long time to reshoot the movie Arrival. Neat. Cool. All right. Fair enough. You know, Strange New Worlds, on the other hand, like, I find a few people here and there who are like, this is not as good as it could have been, but it seems to be like hair on fire. Wow. And like, oddly enough, the series that's getting the most acclaim is Lower Decks.
Yeah.
Really?
And I think it's Lower Decks, Strange New Worlds, and then people are like, okay, we got one season of Disco left to go.
And they're really taking their time.
Did I get my Prozac filled? I think I have my Prozac. Okay.
People like the kids show better than they like Discovery.
Lower Decks is not a kids show.
Well, I'm just sorry. For me, it's just because again, the entertainment industry seems to have delved into more about, instead of making entertainment, they're making content, and so my concern is that the Star Trek has become more of just a content generation IP. So, hey, let's take it and let's just throw everything at it we can and just generate all this stuff. And I'm wondering if it's getting oversaturated or it's getting spread too thin. And then the actual entertainment value is starting to dissipate and you're not getting that draw that you would for getting eyeballs on the screen. So people will pay, because I don't pay for Paramount Plus. I don't know if how many people do. I'm not sure if it's actually all that successful. I don't think Star Trek was supposed to be the anchor point for that service, and so I'm just wondering if it's how viable the whole thing is. I know Star Trek Discovery's got into season 5, so people must watch it. I don't know.
Yeah. So here's the thing. Yes, like viewership is way the F up. It's funny because you saying that reminds me of the previous, I'll call it the Silver Age of Star Trek, when we had Next Gen, DS9, Voyager, Enterprise, movies, and that felt more paint by numbers than what we're getting now. So when I think of the stories that they have told over the course of the 2 years of Star Trek Strange New Worlds, of the 4 years of Disco, which literally like they pinball around what that show feels like. It's very emotional in all directions, but it's just like, when you think of the first season to the second season to the third season to the Arrival season, it's all very different. Lower Decks has been like, welcome to the inside of the joke. Are you in or not? Because if you're not, there's a whole slew of YouTube channels that will get you in on the joke.
I get it. But you know what? I grew tired of that after episode 2. It's like, okay, yeah, another inside joke, more inside jokes. And I found that it was just, again, became a little bit of a trope. Okay, yeah, I get it. You're making fun of the previous stuff. And it's for everybody's going to be different. But I'm just, again, for me, it's really just about, hey, is this actually generating more interest in Star Trek? Or is it just generating content? So
Picard.
Yep.
Which the first 2 seasons did feel like that. And the third season, while it was we got the band back together, which is a trope, I was still there for it.
That was fantastic.
Yeah.
Terry Metalis did an amazing job making it really enjoyable. So again, for me, I guess I'm going to do some reading on that and actually see if people are watching Star Trek again, to see if this way of approaching this type of changing the way Star Trek was originally told back in the golden era of Star Trek,
before Ron Moore came along,
and see if it's actually drawing in that audience that they're looking for. Because to me, from a business point of view, you just want to have people watch your show, and so yeah, I'm curious.
It's interesting. Will brought up Star Trek Prodigy, which was canceled-ish after its first season, and fan outcry has, I think, brought it back, which shades of the late '60s. Like we're here for it, right? So, and like from what I've been reading, viewership is up. Obviously, if they're canceling that show, maybe they don't think it can survive that amount of saturation. Here's the thing: we've lost Picard, right? Because with season 3, they're done. It reminds me of that Simpsons episode, right? The ship is drafty. I complain, but no one listens. Like they're done. Great. Discovery is now entering its final season. I think it's shot. They're done. Strange New Worlds. We know we're getting season 3 and possibly season 4. Lower Decks has no signs of stopping. Prodigy has been. So we're basically down to 2 series, right? It's like so. But we have heard that possibly, was it Star Trek Legacy might be coming next? So you're going to take 7 of 9 and Raffi and possibly spoiler guy. Don't know.
So just one point in general about children's animation, as someone who is a fan of it, is that it tends to only last a few seasons. Shows that are really directed towards kids. Now, things like Rick and Morty and
Simpsons, Family Guy,
these things have more legs, but things that are, if you look at some of the all-time, well, I'm quite biased here, but things like DuckTales or Darkwing Duck, things like this only last 3-4 seasons.
Tailspin only had 1.
Tailspin only had 1. So a lot of these, even this is the most successful kids show of all time. It lasts like 3 seasons. Yeah. So that's typically the lifespan of a kids show. So so I'm not surprised that maybe it got canceled after 1 season or 2 seasons or what have you. Yeah. But so anyways, that's just a little bit to add a little bit of,
so
yeah.
Just to wrap this up, one of the issues that we I think touched on previously, and Star Trek is in danger of doing here, because Star Trek kind of goes in these waves. In the 90s, as you mentioned, Gray, we had the ending of Next Generation. We had Deep Space Nine spooling up. We had Voyager. We had movie. They're switching to the Next Generation movies. There was so much Star Trek content, and then Enterprise, and then it kind of went away, and then it's come back now in full force. But are they going to repeat the errors of the past, where they kind of they almost did too much, and it was getting I started losing track of things because it was a busy time of my life, working and whatnot. It's like I just can't even with all this stuff, because that was in the day when they were doing 22 to 26 episodes per season, especially. Now, so mercifully, the seasons are shorter now and keep them wanting more, which is a good principle to abide by. But at the same time, you want to keep them wanting more. You don't necessarily need 4 or 5 different series running simultaneously. So if they were to spread things out a little bit, give people, I know they want to give people a reason to subscribe to something like Paramount Plus, but how much do you need of just Star Trek content there? Like you can plan ahead, years and years and draw, rather than like just blowing all your ideas in the first couple of years. And so we'll see. Or will we end up going through another Star Trek dry spell? And maybe that would be a good thing, right? We saw the same thing with the Star Wars universe as well. We've had ebbs and flows, and sometimes when the flows come back, it's like, it gets a bit much. Marvel, same thing. So, but a lot of times they want to strike while the iron's hot, and then they just beat that iron into submission until it's just basically dust.
Suck the fun out of it.
So I was struggling because there was a few different series I've really been enjoying this year. I would say you think about shows that really impact you, and I would say one that really does runner. I guess it's going to be my runner-up. I've talked about it at least once, if not twice. Was The Bear? Nice short dramedy. Really well acted, beautifully shot, really intense. Really enjoyed The Diplomat in the spring on Netflix
That's a
as
great
well.
one,
Yeah, good sort of like kind of a geopolitical rom-com, great chemistry. Rufus Sewell and Kerry Russell. It's nice to see them. Ended in a cliffhanger, but I think for me, I'm going to go with The Last of Us. Because again, and I looked back, and this was my most anticipated pick of last year, and like it delivered. It was something I wanted to keep watching it every week. It was, here we go again, more video game intellectual property. There's good stories there to be mined. It was a world that that we hadn't seen. Now, one criticism might be, it's like, oh boy, another zombie story. Well, it's a bit different, and it wasn't. There's not a lot of quote unquote zombies. And the freaky part about this whole zombie thing is that it's not like a virus; it's a fungus. So anyone that knows, so there's no vaccine. So I mean, that is like craziness. I mean, you think about these things actually could happen in the real world, especially as things warm up and permafrost starts to, release things into the environment. Microbes are awakening from millennia, tens or hundreds of millennia ago. Who knows?
Climate change isn't real.
There you go. But temperatures do rise and fall, and we'll see. We'll see what happens.
And there is actually vaccines for fungus, for cordyceps.
It's very nascent technology, though. It's nothing like
it exists, but yes,
viruses.
Anyway.
So anyhow, Last of Us, and of course we've got Mandalorian Daddy in there, Pedro Pascal again protecting another youngling throughout the series. But so that was my momentous pick. It was a tough one because it was a pretty good season for TV. All right, we talked a lot about TV. Let's move on to our wild card picks, shall we? Starting with William, I'll cue you up here.
Sure.
You chose a game for your wild card pick.
I did. And, it's funny because I'm kind of getting to the end of playing this game. But I was like, is this still my pick? Would this still be my pick? And I looked at my Steam hours. I've played this over 200 hours. So I think I kind of have to give it as my pick. So it's Starfield. And I think I mentioned it a few weeks ago. I'm a fan. I'm a big fan of, the Tim Howard movies or video games, I should say. And Fallout was one of my favorite video games. Fallout 4, Fallout 3. And this is basically Fallout in space. I used to think it was less depressing, and the further I get into it, there's a lot of depressing things that happen in Starfield. But I will say it is really fun, and it's just scratches a couple itches for me. What can I say? And I think about it quite often, and I enjoyed the game just a ton.
So how many hours have you logged on Steam on Starfield, Will?
Well, 200.
That's a lot of entertainment value from one purchase.
That's what I mean. For that, I got my money's worth out of that. So
strong choice. I mean, there's a reason why I'm not a gamer, is because of my personality being a little addicted. The one game I was playing when I got the PS3 back in 2007, I had a lot of late nights, and it was a stupid casual game known as Pixel Junk Monsters. And so I can't even imagine these immersive open world games. I would just, you would never see me again. So, so I appreciate you reporting from space for us on Starfield. Good pick. Gray, what's your wild card momentous pick?
This is a podcast or video cast called Digging the Greats. It is from Brendan Shaw, the bassist for Nos, the artist Nos. This is
the hip hop artist.
Yes, yeah.
Okay.
And honestly, like this guy has taken me from not knowing what I didn't know to knowing what I didn't know to knowing some stuff. And like this, he was the guy that spurred me to buy the book Dilla Time about Jay Dilla, and just opened up my eyes to a whole new way of looking at hip hop. Both musically, mathematically. It's done some really great stuff for how I see music when I DJ. And I'm loving like some of the deep dives into Earth, Wind and Fire September, into some of Kanye's stuff, and like even kind of realizing that as an artist, Kanye is probably suffering late stage trauma from his accident, like head trauma. Like you're looking at it going, this guy probably had something happen very, very serious almost 2 decades ago that is altering his personality on a day-to-day basis now. And it's hadn't even thought of that at the time. So it's feel for him. Still needs to.
So the podcast and video cast is called Digging the Greats.
Digging the Greats. So he's now on Patreon. Basically, what he was finding was that a lot of his stuff on YouTube, because the DMCA and the copyright strikes are so severe on YouTube, he could not sample the music. And so at times he tried to recreate the music, but it was so close to the original that he was not able to do that anymore. It's not the original, but it's getting flagged because of the audio signature on there. So he's taking it over to Patreon now. And it's his most recent stuff on MF Doom has been amazing. Like just albums that I have been just digging through and absolutely enjoying. So great video casts. He's on Patreon now. There are extended cuts. There's stuff that he just cannot do on YouTube that he can do over here on Patreon, and it's pretty awesome.
Was this the fellow who one of his videos was deconstructing a bunch of stuff from Daft Punk's Discovery album? Is that one of them? That's amazing too. Just the way, also visually, the way he breaks down some of the samples and whatnot. There's a lot to that album that people don't realize.
Yeah,
very cool. Jamie, you've got a podcast for your wild card momentous pick this year as well.
Yeah, so mine is a podcast called TRIGGERnometry, and it's something that I don't remember how I came across it, but it's a couple of white dudes, one of them with glasses, and
it is a podcast after all.
It is a podcast, yeah, and exactly, and they've got a quite an eclectic range of people that they bring in to talk about, in essence, culture and what's going on. They're both UK based. Francis Foster is originally from Venezuela and still has family there, which has some interesting cultural things going on there. And Konstantin Kisin is originally from the USSR. And so they have very interesting views on culture and capitalism and socialism and communism and Marxism and everything that way. But they approach things, they're both actually comedians, and they approach things from a what's going on point of view. And I really try and pay attention to people who try and just understand things rather than push an ideology. For me, it's just about trying to understand this crazy world we live in and the constantly shifting culture. So if you've got all sorts of different people doing different things. Konstantin Kisin became a little famous. He went to the Oxford Union and gave a speech about He went viral on the internet a few months ago, and that brought a few more people into the realm. But Douglas Murray, actually, I love listening to Douglas Murray. He's a really great speaker. Again, got very different points of view compared to some people, but yeah, you'll get people from the right, from the left, from the center, from the crazy parts of the world too, and they can be really enjoyable to listen to. So that was my my wild card pick. But I do want to say that No Man's Sky is, I think I talked about it last year too. It's still going strong. It's like a Starfield type situation. And it still gets updated constantly, and there's new things going on there. So I still play that every once in a while. So
is that your destiny too?
Well, it's just kind of, it's almost like it's an open universe but casual game. So you can just play it how you like. You can farm, you can mine things, you can have space wars, you can do whatever you want, and it's kind of it's a constantly evolving thing, and they keep giving updates to it every month or two with whole new content at no cost. There's no DLCs. There's nothing. It's just, you just download the game and you play it, and they just keep updating it. So that would be a close second for me as well.
That's on my list, Jamie.
There you go.
Probably going to buy it over Christmas.
A lot of people that were playing No Man's Sky, from what I saw on the subreddit, they said, "Oh, I'm going to go to Starfield now because it's going to be great." And they're like, "Okay, I'm done with Starfield. I'm going back to No Man's Sky." So, because I think there's just a difference there for different kinds of people.
Yeah, just to interject, one of the things, Starfield really tried to promote itself as like an exploration game, and it turns out that it's not a very good exploration game, and I think that's part of what No Man's Sky fills that void. Yeah. So people who left No Man's Sky looking for another exploration game were probably disappointed, and I totally understand that. So it's not a very good exploration game, and I could go on and on about that, but yeah. Anyways, I'm looking forward to trying out No Man's Sky, and we'll have a conversation about it afterwards.
Sounds good.
So my wildcard pick is basically a bonus quasi-tech pick. It's not a podcast, it's not a video game, but when I try to look at these different categories through the lens of what's had, some of the greatest impact on my life over the last year, and I mentioned ChatGPT Plus being one of them. One of the other key ones has to do with home comfort. So over the last couple of years, or the last several years, we have a house that faces southwest, and in the summertime it can get a little warm. And our house is 87 years old or so. Our furnace is so old it does not even have a place you can put filters in it. So I mean, we may be good candidates for installing a heat pump or something like that. Some people suggest, well, if you don't want to do that, you could just get central air and have it, add it to your forced air system, whatever. And of course, there are all sorts of wonderful grants for heat pumps from various levels of government, which of course have helped drive the price up for heat pumps installation, because that's what happens.
Capitalism, baby.
Yeah, well, market distortions, all that kind of stuff. So you increase the demand. So we're looking, it's like, I don't necessarily want to spend between $12,000 and $22,000 for the heat pump that might work for our situation. So as maybe a stopgap, we'll see, just to take the edge off. We looked at getting a window air AC unit, but a little bit different. So we found this brand called Medea, and my wife Stephanie had actually found a portable unit. We had portable AC units that we'd had in a couple of different rooms. They were getting a little long in the tooth. One was a hand-me-down, one was in our bedroom. Best investment ever that we got soon after we got the house, just to keep things cool in our bedroom at night. That one unit we had serviced a couple of times, and it was pretty much end of life after 16 years or so. So we've instead of getting another portable unit, however, we found a window unit that was actually a little bit cheaper from the same company called Medea, which was new to me and probably Chinese or what have you. But this particular unit was U-shaped. It's something I'd never seen before. And apparently Danby has a U-shaped one now and a couple other ones. But this was readily available. The price was right. Managed to find a sale. And it's the 10,000 BTU smart inverter U-shaped window air conditioner. And the slot is basically where you pull the your window down. If you've got the right configuration of windows, doesn't work with sliding windows.
Window.
Yeah, sashed windows. That's what it's called. There you go. And so what it does is it puts the electronics and the vent part on the inside, and it keeps the compressor and all the noisy stuff on the outside. And then they give you all sorts of foam and whatnot to seal things up. So it really minimizes the amount of noise you get in the room, and which is especially handy in the bedroom. A little bit of white noise helps you sleep, but as these things age, they can tend to get noisier and noisier. So it was remarkable. So that was one of the Stephanie's key criteria was quiet. And this is very quiet. We liked it so much, we thought, hey, well, maybe we could get one of these for the kitchen as well to replace the hand-me-down AC portable AC unit that was taking a bit too much room in the kitchen. Got this in the window, kitchen, especially when sometimes you avoid even cooking in the summertime because it would get so hot in our main living area. So you have the AC in the kitchen. It's great. And then we like that so much, we got another one for our guest room, and we keep the guest room door open. Guest room is also our studio here. And it can get pretty warm recording Momentous live, but having that cool the room down is nice. And like I said, we keep the door open and it pushes the air into the living room as well. So this was like our best summer ever. And our hydro bills were actually less than the previous summer because these are all newer units. They're all Energy Star, much more efficient than the previous 2 portable units. So we're winning all around. So that's the Medea Smart Inverter U-shaped window air conditioner. It's got like Wi-Fi connectivity and an app and all that. I don't even bother. You can set timers, that's all we need. I don't need to control it via an app necessarily. Speaking of which, there's an episode of It's Always Sunny in Philadelphia, the season finale of whatever season it is, 14 or 15 or something like that. And it's all about the kind of daily frustrations that we encounter with things that have apps that don't necessarily need them. In among other sort of violations we face daily on things just taking far too long and have too much friction. All right, that's it for our momentous picks. Very quickly, let's get to our projects this week, starting with you, William.
Yeah, so I have a new looper, surprise, surprise. Gold Tooth Volume 7. It's been a very successful series. It's my spin-off of my main sort of looper series, and this one's getting really good response. One of the best responses I've had all year, and I'm really thrilled about it. And sort of a combination of hip hop, funk, electro. I think in one of my I have to do little write-ups before I release these, and Gray, you might appreciate this. I think I said something to the extent it's like a combination between Jay Dilla and Egyptian Lover. So just a lot of very organic hip hop and electro, which are very different from each other. So it's a fun series to put together, and it's a little bit different than Level Up, which has got more difference in BPMs and styles. And this one is kind of like the one that I feel like is most like my style, or the kind of music that I like the most. And then Level Up is kind of things that I do to try to create a variety so that people have different things to practice too. So I really enjoy these. And again, people really seem to like it. It's on tabletist.net and also on Table Beats. And check it out.
Sweet. You can check if you go and visit the web sites that Will mentioned. You can listen to such classics as Neon Green DeLorean, Killbot Millionaire, and Just Grinding, Baby. You've been grinding for a couple of years at these beats, Will, and I'm glad to hear that you're getting more and more traction as time goes on. Building a real following. It's really cool to see.
Oh, on a side note, I've become such a person that people are now sending me things. So I'm getting a demo of a record because somebody wants me to do a Instagram video. And he's sending me a free record, and somebody sent me a bunch of stickers from Italy, which took 3 months to get here. Nice. And my favorite part is in the two, like, in the address in the front, it said Molotov, and then my address. and my wife was like, "This is for you."
Nice.
Awesome.
Nice.
Gray.
Yes.
Hit us.
So we have web.today. What is web today? Well, it's loading. At some point during this podcast, I did mention the password. So if you're tenacious and go through the entirety of what I have said today, you may find the ability to get in and early access to web.today. Probably not, though. So stay tuned to this space. If you're listening to this on the audio version of the podcast, if you load up web.today into your browser, you may find out what web is. Is that mysterious enough?
No hints?
No.
Perfect.
No, this is anti-marketing. I got the eyebrow cocked here. It's
okay, Sarah McLachlan, you're building a mystery.
Right? Come out at night.
Awesome. Well, check it out, web.today, and re-listen to this entire episode and try entering every single word that Gray's entered until you get banned by his web hosting provider for a denial of service attack. Jamie, got any project for this week?
Well, now I'm going to set ChatGPT on analyzing the audio of Gray's voice, and then have it just generate a text list and send it to web.today. So that's my project.
Perfect. You're going to hack it.
Yeah.
Hack the system. Excellent. Well, our missing a quarter, Tasia Custodi, is not here, but she's still on YouTube. And her latest video is Gmail Tips, How to Save Time in Gmail. The best time-saving tips for Gmail. So we got a little SEO going on there because that's what you got to do nowadays as a creator. And you can follow her work at www.tasiacustodi.com or youtube.com/Tasia Custodi. And speaking of which, she and I have another little show that usually comes out on Fridays. And the latest episode of which is Multimodal AI Models, the Empires Strike Back. So yeah, that episode is about Google and Apple and Microsoft and Meta and how they're responding to efforts from OpenAI and the old AI race. So you can check us out at AInamedThisShow.com. And other than that, that's it. We did it, guys.
Woo!
The end of 2023. We're going to be off next week. But in the meantime, you can find us at www.momentous.tv. Sign up for YouTube and podcast, all that kind of good stuff, whichever mode of consumption suits you best for consuming our content. Right, Jamie?
Yeah.
I love the content.
Just content. Yeah.
That's one thing that has driven me crazy for years and years when people refer to stuff like as content and even creators themselves. Oh yeah, check out my content. It's like, what you mean your art or your research or your like documentary? Like, no, it's not content. Like content is what like web scrapers, scrape. Let's call things what they are. But to your point, Jamie, we just don't want to shovel it out there. We want to craft it. We want farm to table artisanal content.
Exactly.
Jamie Reynolds, thank you so much for joining us. We look forward to seeing you
having
again
me.
soon.
You bet.
We'll see some of this gang back in early January for our forward-looking episode. It'll be our third annual forward-looking episode. The things that we're looking forward to, our wish list for 2024. And we'll have an extra day next year to get what we're wishing for because it'll be a leap year. So that's pretty exciting, right?
Thanks for the heads up.
All right. Well, Gray, Jamie, and everyone else out there, we hope your year is truly momentous.